Hello and welcome back to a new video. This is part 2 of 3 of the ZiBo Mod 737 tutorial. So, you can see the pushback is connecting to front gear and we will be ready to push in a few moments. Part 1, I show you how to enter a route, the flight plan, how to set up the performance pages and the overhead panel such as the pedestal. In this tutorial we're going to push, we will taxi to runway, make a takeoff and climb to a cruise level. I hope this will be interesting for you and you can learn something about how to fly ZiBo Mod correctly. So, better pushback has connected and we go just into the cockpit at our first officer seat. Flight plan is entered. We've got 5 tons of fuel in it, 5.3 and 5. Yes, exactly 5 was planned. So we've got enough fuel because SimReef always gives you way too much fuel. So start the explain sound and let's go. So first for push, go into your overhead panel. Probe heats can be turned on. Check the left and right jet fans are to auto, packs off, isolation valve auto, APU bleed on. Set your cruising altitude, your landing altitude can be set later on. Logo light, wing light, anti-collision can be turned on, position, strobe and steady to steady. Turn on fuel pumps, wait for the lights to disappear, turn on the yaw damper, turn on the hydraulic pumps. Those lights should be on because the engines aren't started at the moment. Now you go to your captain's seat. You find this here. It's nose wheel steering. It has to be in the second position for the pushback. Then you can plan the push and push. So I will show you where we're gonna depart. This is runway 27 right, where we're gonna depart. And we are at this position, it's position number 4. So you can just set where you want to go, enter, and something isn't okay with my speed brake, I have to watch it. Okay, release park brake. And I forgot to set the QNH because there was an issue restarting the simulator and I hadn't got saved the flight correctly. That's why I just entered the values again. It was, and I have nothing made and it's not longer armed. Oh god. Okay, anything is going crazy on it here. So we are now pushing. Equipment cooling can be of course to norm. Anti-air is off today, we don't need it. It's set to auto, trim is on, and you check the both are on cutoff and you can start your engine. Make sure you got the engine page down here and watch N2 for 20 to 25%. So we've got 19 and there is 20. We open the fuel valve and the fuel can go into the engine. This is the opposite which you will find on new aircraft or on other new aircraft like the A320, 777, 787, etc. They're going to have an auto start and you just have to start the engine. Fuel is going to be inserted automatically. In a 737, you just tell the aircraft, here, there is your fuel. So at 55 to 56%, and 2, the start selector will go to the off position automatically. You hear this click sound when it's flicking back, and then you know the engine is started correctly. So inside the fuel, go to your takeoff page and watch trim 4.5. 5, then is here 4, and 4.5 is over there. Just set it here. You can turn on the wheel itself or turn on a hardware. So that's about 4.5 units. Then you hear the sound. Set flaps for takeoff. Engines on the continue position. Generator both on. Wait for the light to go off. The APU light will illuminate because they're not longer in use. So you can just turn it off. Packs on. Then turn your bleed for the APU off and turn the blades for the engines on. So now you can just turn on the taxi light and you're ready to go. Before check you just got this switch again. Okay, there you are. You're pushed back, your engines are started, and now you do the flight control check. So how you will do it, you go to System, and you see these dials down here. So you can move the yoke around this and like this, and you see your flight controls are correctly functioning. I test the speed brake and the rudder. Now go to the norm position. I turned the wheel accidentally, and you're all done. So now you can taxi to runway 27 right for departure, and we will meet at holding point again. So there we are. This is the holding point for runway 09 left and 27 right. We are here at 09 center. It's this runway. Before we cross, we just turn on the runway turn off. Set transponder to on. Cross holding point for the small runway. And then onto the big takeoff runway. So before we can do it, there is a checklist. So I hadn't performed any checklist until now because it's a tutorial and it's not a how to fly with all checklists, because I tell you okay, sorry, I just okay, just ignore it. So oh, I can continue. Holding point is over there. So I gonna explain the things to do and not the checklists which have been performed. You can find all checklists in your EFB. There is a checklist. Or you take this checklist over here. If you want to work with a checklist, I would recommend this, or just downloading a checklist onto your tablet, iPad, handy, or just print it like you want. So, but there is a checklist onto the yoke, which is down to the important thing you always have to remember. And I always would recommend to check these. So before we're gonna do it, we just turn on the landing lights, go to position, strobe, and steady. You have here the cabin should prepare for takeoff. Flaps are set to 5, and then you can perform the checklist. Config is checked. Flaps, green light is this one here. It's leading edges, flaps extended. That's checked. Step trim 4.5 units set. Takeoff briefing is reviewed. Cabin is secured. MCP 5000, heading 140. You can just set 270 for departure. If you're flying, for example, in the United States, you mostly will get a vector on departure. For example, on departure, heading 250 immediately, and yeah, and then you should turn in this heading and fly with heading select. That's what we gonna review later on in approach. But what you do in approach with heading, you can also do on departure or in flight for traffic. So transponder is on. This can be found here. It's the TARA. Strobe lights are on. It's the upper position, strobe and steady. And the last point is the landing lights. You just turn these and all of the 4 landing lights will go on. If you're using the newer version with the LED lights, you don't have these. It's just at the halogen lights, and yeah, then you have to turn both of these switches manually. Because that's 4, it's a bit easier, just one click. So, landing light is on before takeoff checklist is completed. Now you know you're fully ready for departure. You can click on the engine, you don't need the low display now. So, we make a lineup. So, flight directors both available. We go with VNav and a level change. And when pressing level change,
27 right.
27 right, that's checked. When pressing level change, you have to set your speed may again. So we're just lining up. Okay.
27 right.
27 right, that's checked. We stop on the runway. And now you're gonna make a brief sum up of what you did. So, transponder is set. You may got your takeoff clearance. You're ready to go. Your hardware is ready configured, and everything is okay. So you will do it not like this. You stand on the runway and you wait. Okay, this is done, this is done, this is done. Now you just make sum up in your head. Everything done. Okay, checked. We can go. So release parking brake. Go to 40, 50. Watch the engine stable. Then you set the speed up to the green dial shown on here. This is your takeoff position for the throttles. Check 80 knots and then you wait for the V1. V1, go from throttle, rotate. You're softly putting up the aircraft. Watch no tail strike. We've got positive rate, gear is up. So 737 is really difficult to watch no tail strike because the aircraft is very long from the main gear. Flaps are going to 2. 1000 is checked. Follow flight director. Gear is to the off position, which will cut the electronic and hydraulic system of the landing gear. In some new aircraft, this is done automatically. But the 737 got a good combination of good and new stuff. So flaps 2 up. You can ignore position 1. Watch your altitude and your speed. We're at 4,000 feet nearly. 200 knots, 1000 to go. You can level off a bit so you won't exceed too much. So there are 500 feet to go now, 1000, 1500 and less. Auto brake will go off. Watch speed 250, not greater. Follow flight director. So intercept altitude, now we're at high. So now you can turn on, and I will pause the sim for it so I can explain it for you better. So this is your MCP. It basically is very easy to use. You've got your altitude, your heading, and your speed. Those cores aren't important now, we use it later on for landing. So over here you got your autopilot engages. Command A is used by the captain, B is used by the first officer. CWS is control wheel steering. You won't need it at all during this flight. And you don't want to use it at all your flights. I never use control wheel steering because I fly manually or the autopilot is engaged, not something in between. Auto throttle can be armed. When the sim isn't paused, you will watch the light turning on when pressing speed and turning on the autopilot. But I will show you when we continue everything. Command, set the next altitude and level change, and set the speed to 250 knots or less until passing flight level 100. So due to the sim was paused, the autopilot can't decide what to do correctly. It's okay. You won't have it when you make a normal departure. That's just because I paused and continued. So we're climbing now to 230. This is set on the altitude. So the aircraft is now climbing with vertical speed, which we won't do. We will climb with level change, check N1. You could climb using it's better. You could climb using your VNav. I wouldn't recommend it because with level change the aircraft is controlling pitch and speed working against. VNav will indicate some altitude restrictions and level off, go just onto your right, level, speed, etc. just like in the charts. That's maybe helpful when descending, but when flying online you got a new altitude to climb at, your aircraft is then stopping and you have to correct it in the FMC. It's not fun at all. Use level change. So, if you want to use the VNav to climb, you go to your legs page. So, the controller tells you to cross a Charlie Echo Lima at, I don't know, 190. So you make /190, paste it here and execute it. Aircraft is now trying to get 190 when engaging VNav. So what is the aircraft doing? The aircraft is looking, okay, which speed do I need? Which altitude do I need? And are there any restrictions? We can tell the aircraft now to maintain 290 at 190, for example. Just execute it. Now the aircraft is wanna control altitude and speed from the cellar viewer. So may the aircraft don't get it because it's too late, but I'm convinced the aircraft is making it correctly. So turn off the lights, all of these both, and when passing you can just go off. After takeoff, air conditioning pressurization is set. Engine start switches off. Landing gear up and off. Auto brake off. Flaps up, no light in this time. And altimeters are both set to standard. That's checked. So the aircraft is below 190 because we couldn't reach the correct altitude and the correct moment. So we are now at 190. Can just have a brief look. We are okay. We're 1.7 nautical miles from the VOR. It's okay. So that's just a few hundred feet. You are below the restriction. You don't have to be at a correct, exact position 1-2 miles. Totally fine. So what I used was the Fix page. It's very, very interesting, this page. You can turn in every waypoint, every airport, every VOR, NDB, everything you can imagine to see your radial and the distance. So for example, if you want to know how far we're gonna take to Hamburg, just type in Hamburg and you see it's 16 nautical miles from position. This isn't correct because we aren't flying directly to Hamburg, we are flying over Dierbro, Rarup and the whole route. But if you want to know, okay, for example, how many track miles are the ZiBo is in front of behind me, just use it. It's pretty simple. If you don't want to get these dial down here where you get shown the VOR, the airport, etc., you just type in, delete, enter. If you're flying Oceanic with the 737 or any other Boeing aircraft, 737 Oceanic isn't that uh, well known, but okay. If you want to do it, I personally always typed in the coordinate. For example, can just have a look what I had used last time, of which I'm inbound. To see, okay, here I'm inbound, I can tell it the controller and I see the distance to it. It makes everything more easier and more quicker for you to recognize. So I'm just searching for an example of such an coordinate if you're never flown above the ocean. I can tell you it's pretty interesting. It can be pretty boring too. You just should know that because you're sitting very long time just searching or flying these coordinates and tell it the controller it's but I think I sadly don't have an example for you because I can't find any of my clearances. I'm very sorry. This isn't this topic for this video, but I thought I can tell it to you. Very, very sorry. Where are we gonna fly? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I just want to close my book for all clearances. There, I got it. An example is 6330 North. So I went to Fix Page, turn in 6330 North. It's here. Okay, it's 1,400 nautical miles from here. But if you're flying Oceanic, there is maybe 200-300, which is extremely, but you know it. So that's the way how you work with your Fix Page. So now this video is 23 minutes. That's okay. We will make a cut because landing is getting interesting. So what I've done now is set 150. Why I done this and how we continue, you will see later on. So thanks for watching. I hope you get a better idea of taking off the 737. If you want to do correct callouts on departure, you just have to look, thrust set, then the VEED speeds, and of course the 80 knots cross check. Follow checklists, very important thing. Set your altitude, and very, very important, always look your engine start switches are continuous or off when passing level 100. I messed it up. I'm very sorry because I want to tell you so much about the autopilot. It's so interesting to set everything correctly, and yeah, I hope you can You can't forget about it. And I hope you have a great week now. Wish you a pleasant day. See you next Friday when landing at Hamburg Airport. Goodbye.